So this is the eccentric bottom bracket. So this sits in the shell of the Grinduro, and the crank sits in here. And as you can see, this hole here is offset. So as we rotate that, it makes the distance between your cranks and your sprocket longer or shorter, and that's how you tension the chain. So essentially, when you screw this bolt in, it pushes these wedges in and raises them up ever so slightly, and that's what gives the tension on the bottom bracket shell to tighten this up, because we don't want that spinning. So when we set the tension to the correct point, we lock it in place by screwing that up, and that's where you need your torque setting to do it to somewhere between 7 to 8 Newton meters. After a while that's been in your bottom bracket shell, these two wedges here, these get stuck. So what happens is when we unwind this bolt, these wedges stay in the same place. So what we need to try and do is knock them to try and push that wedge that way and this wedge this way. So what I'll show you in a minute is I tend to wind. What you'll find is when you wind this bolt out, you'll just be able to see, I don't know if you can see it, but in there's a recess where there's a little circlip. And what happens is when you wind that bolt out, it hits the circlip and that pushes that wedge. But sometimes when you wind that bolt out this way, that little tiny circlip will just come out with it. And in fact, I fitted a brand new bottom bracket, and that circlip literally lasted just a couple of adjustments. So I tend to take that out and just don't use it. So the hard thing is on the bike, these get stuck. So we need to try and just give these a bit of a knock. So what we find is the first thing I'll do, which I'll show you, is I wind this bolt out till about there. And then I'll get a larger punch, put that punch on there, and then give that a smash. And then what that will do is it will push that wedge. So this wedge then will be free. And what I've done on here, I've just drilled some holes. These won't be on yours, but I've drilled some holes so you can put a 3mm wedge through there and then knock that punch from this side to get this wedge free. But if you haven't got these holes, all you can do is you can take out this bolt all the way. Eventually, probably help if I take the elastic band off. Like that. You can take that bolt all the way out, and then you can put your 2 or 3mm punch through that threaded hole and just make sure you're not in the hole, and then put it to one side. I've got a bit of a bend on that, if you can see it. So feed it through. So it's, let's say, there. And then again, just give that a knock. And then once these are free, these two wedges are free, you'll see in a minute, you'll be able to turn this bottom bracket. And that's what puts the tension on the chain. Now, you might need to just have a look here because, oh, let me see if I can show you that. So this bottom bracket, these wedges can pretty much go either way round. However, this is the main side that you need to get access to. There's nothing on this side. This is the main side. So this may be on your drive side. I can't remember how it comes installed. It might be on a drive, it might be on your non-drive side. If it's on your drive side, to get to this, you might be able to get into that Allen key if it's like that. But if not, you might have to take your chain set off. I think on the original ones, it's a crank puller because it's a square taper crank. But if at any point you do get this out, I would swap the wedges around. So this bolt is on your non-drive side, which you should be able to see under there. There, look. Cool. Right, so let's just go through. Right, so as I said, this bolt may be on this side, on your drive side. If that's the case, you'll need to just take your cranks out. But to start off, so what you want to do is get into that 4mm Allen key hole with your Allen key. It needs to be a really good one. And then just loosen that. And as I said, as you pull that out, there may be a little circlip in there. And when you undo that bolt, it may push that wedge out the other side. But sometimes that circlip just pops out. So you'll just have to have a look when you start unwinding that, just to see if that wedge moves. But what I tend to do is I wind that out till about there, so the bolt is sticking out about that much. I don't know if you can see that. And then what I do is I put my punch on there and I hit that bolt. And what that does, you see there's no gap there. In a minute you'll see that come out. So let me just, I think I should be able to show this. So I put it on the bolt. I need to put my leg this side. There we go. So if you can see, can you see there that wedge? Don't know if you can see that. That wedge now has just popped out a bit. Can you see it sits a bit flush? So that wedge is out this side. So then what I do is get my smaller punch, and you can do this one of two ways. You can either take that bolt out all the way. In fact, I'll do that because I don't think you'll have any holes drilled. So under here, if you can see that. Take that all the way out. And now you can see that wedge there. Look, can you see that that's loose? It's really moving now. And then put your smaller punch into the hole, which is, where is it? There. That's where that bolt just came out, until it hits the other wedge, and then give that a knock. Oh, we need to make sure you're, there we go. So now you see that this wedge is out, and now you should be able to see the whole bottom bracket turning, because these wedges now are loose. So what you want to do before you start moving it too much is put that bolt back in, just so it's in there. So now you can see how the bottom bracket turns to tension the chain. So watch the tension of the chain. If I move that forward, there we go. Look at the tension of the chain now. So move it back, it's slack. Move it forward, it's tight. And that needs to be not really tight, but enough, just a small amount of play, maybe a centimetre either way. And this is where you need your pin tool, because what you need to do is it's two holes under here. If I show you on here, which are these two holes here. And the pin tool goes in those two, because all you're trying to do there is just to twist it, so you put enough tension on there whilst you tighten that up. And what that does, it will expand the wedges and lock it into the shell. So I'll put the pin tool in there, and you can see again when You see when I twist, see the chain, slack, tight, slack, tight. So you just put enough pressure on there, go back to your bolt and just get to a point where you nip that up. Keep applying the pressure onto your pin tool. Right, so that's tightening ever so slightly. So I'm just going to nip that up finger tight. And then this is where you need your torque wrench. Now what you might find is when you have the standard 4mm, that might not get into the bolt because it might touch there. You see where that's knocking there? It's a bit too short. So what I did is I just bought an extended 4mm. See, it's about 10mm longer. And then you see it really fits into, oh, there it is, into the hole nicely without fouling. So I set it to, I normally set mine to about 8 if I'm honest. That's about 7. There we go. So that's torque set, and as you can see, the chain's nice and. So when you spin the cranks backwards, they should spin nice and freely. If the tension's too tight, you'll find that that kind of feels really graunchy on the back there. But that's fine, and that's it.